it seems like even when you have lost, and you're able to have that understanding of the value of the thing that you lost, if that thing is still in front of you, it still seems like it's difficult to maintain that awareness. Do you know what I mean? Like, how do you, is it possible to keep that awareness alive?
You know, keeping and protecting to protect anything that's worth protecting, it demands a certain lifestyle. You have to be in a very, very, very privileged position. Let's say that your teacher tells you that, Allison, you're a gifted writer. Your parents gave you some money, you were able to go to Sierra College for a semester, you're free from, the responsibilities of life that most, students have to kind of carry. That semester you're free, so you're able to devote your time to reading and writing and thinking. And your instructor looks and says, wow, this is beautiful. Essay after essay, they are impressed. And you say to them, yeah, okay. And they work with you, doing your application for Berkeley or Princeton or whatever the case may be, and you get accepted. You're ready to go. And then your mom gets sick, and then your dad gets sick, or maybe you get sick, or maybe your boyfriend gets sick. And all of a sudden there is kind of a wedge inside. All of a sudden that happens. Your plans are now a little shaky. You don't really want to leave your mom or your dad. You don't want to leave, your boyfriend who's gotten sick. Maybe you're just sick and can't go. And so you have a physical life that is going against your intellectual life or your passions, which is you want to write but you can't. And it doesn't matter who tells you, if Jesus Christ or Eckhart Tolle, if it's Tolle, he's completely ridiculous, but they can't tell you, well, just be aware of it. Well, you can be aware of it. The only thing you can really be aware of it is grabbing your mom and taking her to Kaiser. That's the only thing that comes to your consciousness. That's the only thing you can care about. Because life is forcing you to choose Princeton or your mother. And that depends how much you love your mom or how much you hate your mom. That depends on your, what has happened to you in your childhood. If she's been around in your life, then there's a good chance that you'll have too much guilt to move away. If she's been an awful human being, always drunk and abusing you, then you say, well, this is like a messiah. Princeton is a messiah, and you get on a plane and leave, never come back. But let's just take the positive, which is your mom has been a nice human being. She's always been in your life. She's always been encouraging and positive. And she's also very happy that, you're going to Princeton. And let's say she just gets sick and your dad can't do anything because he's old and he's sick as well. So life is not participating in this. And the idea of you taking care of your mom and somewhere inside you, you're supposed to be aware of the gift of writing. But how long do you think that's going to take before it completely disappears? Remember how often your mom had to be on the phone with all these ridiculous insurance companies. There is no energy left to you, And eventually you'll kind of just put your passion on the cross when you say, you know what? maybe next life. Because that's what the world does. It just exhausts you. So when you talk about, how could I keep my awareness, you can't think about philosophy if you're cleaning houses. You can't think about the things that you enjoy thinking about if you're doing things that are distracting that particular ways of thinking. It doesn't work. So you want to be a musician, but you work at Home Depot, so there is this conflict. And so you're such a stupid human being, you pay $5,000 to a workshop, run by Eckhart Tolle, how to deal with conflict. And he gives you all these ridiculous, bullet points. You only need one bullet point, man. Go rob a bank, quit, Home Depot, and just sit and write. The idea that you want to go this way, life is taking you that way, and somehow you're supposed to make peace, there is no peace to be made. And you're angry, and you have every right to be angry. And anger, in fact, is a good thing. It's a positive thing. Because if someone is useful in your life, will tell you, you know what, forget Home Depot, I'll give you $10,000, just go right. And that's the person you need, some encouragement. You sell your car or something. But the idea of resolving conflict, it just doesn't work. So if your physical life is not running in the same direction as your intellectual life, if you have any, then it's just not going to work out. There are meetings on campus I have to go. I just don't go. They don't fit me. I can't pay attention. They're not interesting. They're not valuable for me. They may be for the president, the vice president, the dean, all the other ridiculous people. Don't get me wrong. These are things that must be done. I just don't have the stomach to do them. And so the idea of being aware of my position at the same time being engaged in these ridiculous activities, they're just not going to go well. So the other thing is that there is this just natural component inside you that awareness is a heavy weight to carry around all the time. Okay? And there comes a point where, like carrying anything in life, you carry a bag from Trader Joe's, after a while when you have stuff in it, your arms just get tired. You walk from point A to point B, your body gets exhausted. Intellectually, it's the same thing. You carry this awareness, which is always kind of standing out there, paying attention to your emotions, making sure that you're not consumed by them, you're not overtaken and get drunk by them, that force you to kind of behave and say stupid things that will cause you regret in the future. That takes a lot of energy. You may be able to do it for maybe 5 hours, maybe 6 hours. Then you just have to be stupid. Then you have to kind of just disengage and kind of just go into life and, give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. The problem, I think, is this false reality that's being given to us, that try to be aware 24 hours a day, every single day, until the day you die. It's possible to have that awareness for maybe 10, 12 hours if you have a very creative life, if you have a lot of power in your life where from 10 to 11 you meet with Jesus Christ, from 12 to 1 you meet with Malcolm X, from 2 to 5 you meet with Angela Davis, from 5 to 12 you meet with, I don't know, some prime minister in India about poverty. Well, if that is your lifestyle, well, good for you, And eventually your body will just adjust to being a heavyweight in life. Most of us are just, it's not even lightweight, it's featherweight. It's not even featherweight, it's like featherweight. You know, they can only carry like tiny little things. And so we kind of live in an environment where it says, well, you have to always be aware. Are you kidding? And then when you catch yourself not being aware, well, you punish yourself, you know, where you go to church and repent for hours. Yeah. You know, I've always faulted Mehrdad, my friend, who was with, you know, Hussein and myself for about 10 years or so. He went out with this young woman, you know, she got pregnant, her father was a sheriff, threatened to, you know, hurt him if he didn't do the right thing, which was marrying her. He got married. They had a child. Beautiful. Time passes. He, in the gathering, says, yeah, Hussein, I gotta tell you, you know, Melissa's pregnant. Hussein goes, don't have any more. So time passes, you know, like a year or so. So Hussein, I don't know how to tell you this. What is it? Melissa's pregnant. Idiot. You'll never be anything, you know. And so, you know, my brother had his kids in his class at AR. And when, you know, he would ask them, so what does your dad do? Does he read? You know, he says, oh, no, are you kidding? You know, he works for the state. He comes home and he just lays on the sofa and just watches TV. You know, and it's really, really nice that Mehrdad got himself to a place where he lessened the forces of conflict upon his psyche. That I shouldn't be watching TV, I should like be reading. You know, you work for a state and it's a job that just sucks the life out of you. You wake up full of life, you come home with a corpse. That's all you are, just a corpse. You know, and it troubles you for a while. But there is something really nice about us, you know, that we are creatures that can adapt. Adapt to the most ridiculous, the most absurd. We can do that. And then the conflicts will go away. Once in a while they'll come back up and they say, so, what are you doing? You know? You know, it's funny because my brother and a few of our friends went out a few weeks ago and Mehrdad was there. And he said, so, what's Amir doing these days? Where is he? He said, well, you know, Amir teaches and he's done this and he's done that. And so apparently he had read something. And so he texts my brother and says, you know, I read what he wrote and this is really, really good. And the point is, you know, there are these moments you kind of catch yourself and you go back in time and you say, I was 19. I used to go to these gatherings for 10 years. It was intense. You know, and then you kind of slowly begin to lose. I mean, I guess the point to your question is, if intellectually, emotionally, spiritually, if you have experienced something and you have enjoyed what you have experienced, make sure that you have a physical life that supports it. You know, because if your physical life has cracks in it, all this gem that you have will just kind of go through the cracks and they'll be lost. You know, the only thing that will remain is the memories of them, you know. So, and initially you can't really keep awareness. It's far too difficult. You need someone from the outside to help you. You know, whenever we went to Hussein, it was as if Hussein was the shield force, that you go to his house or he comes to the car wash or you speak to him on the phone, and all of a sudden this thing kind of just covers you. The world disappears. It's just you and him, and all his ideas. And even when the phone call ends, or even when you kind of leave his house and you're driving home, the kind of stuff that he puts in you, and the sort of things that protect those things stay with you for, about a couple of days. It's like having a very, very intense dream. It stays with you for some time, and then it disappears. And so initially you need to have someone out there. I always liken this to, if you always want to remember the thing that you think is valuable, worth remembering, it needs to be like cancer 4. Or you need to kind of you go to the doctor and tell you have cancer. The moment you hear that you have cancer, it's as if fun disappears, joy disappears. All of a sudden you find yourself, in a cemetery of sorts. Everything is dying. Everything is, it's like the movie Moana, where she has a dream where everything is like disappearing, dying in her island. And that's what cancer 4 is. And, everything that you touch begins to smell like cancer. For someone comes to you who's 20 and says, so Dad, how should I live my life once you die? Well, as a father, you look at your kid and say, son, I have cancer 4, I'm going to die. This house is yours. Try not to party. Try not to smoke. Live a creative life. He thinks that I'm just saying things, but if he pays attention, all my advice has the fragrance of cancer and death. And that's the person you need to be around. Someone who is intensely and deeply infected. And awareness, when you become aware, there's a good amount of, sure, you can be thankful about your health and all that stuff. But there comes a point where, you're outward. You look out there to kind of figure out how you can kind of fix some of the difficulties that exist in the world, whether it's your students, whether it's your parents. But there are always these wrinkles in life that you're trying to kind of iron out. And so, very much like in the spirit of Christ, that you have found your cross, now you have to carry it. And you need to find someone who has found that cross and who's carrying it, because you can't really have too much fun around that person. You can't talk too much, you can't laugh too much, you can't goof around too much, unless you just lack the ability to be observant and pay attention to things. Then you do whatever. And I think there's a good reason why, for example, Socrates, Plato doesn't tell us like he had a belly laugh at a bar somewhere, or Jesus never smiled, or Muhammad was always serious, or Moses was always serious. There's a reason. They're aware of something, and that awareness doesn't leave them. You need to be around those people if you want this kind of awareness to stay with you, until you just become pregnant with it. And when you're pregnant, you can terminate the pregnancy if it's it's only a month or 2 months or 3 months. The 4th month is going to be really difficult to say, well, I want to terminate the pregnancy. You're going to have a difficult time. It's doable, but you'll have a difficult time. By the time this awareness inside you is like a living, quacking thing, it's there to stay with you for life. And once you get to that place, it doesn't matter what you do. You can rob a bank, You could sleep with 1,000 guys. None of those things matter because you're pregnant. you know. And what your body does will never ever remove the awareness that lives inside of it. You know, that's why nobody really talks about Jesus doubting on the cross. I mean, doubting in the garden, or, you know, complaining on the cross. Nobody cares. You know, I mean, he's 99% awareness, 1% kind of just being a goofball. And who cares about the 1%? And I think this is good to know, because then you don't need to expect too much from yourself. You know, if you know you're preparing for your online classes and you're not really doing Zoom and you're just posting items, and you have a class one day a week, and you prepare like a few hours beforehand, well, you can't look yourself in the mirror and say, well, Alison, you know, you're only serious on Tuesdays. The rest of the week you're just all over the place. Well, of course, because your physical life doesn't support the intellectual life. And then, you know, after a while, if you're able to kind of just kind of concede and say, well, that's my life, conflicts will go away. You'll accept the fact that you are, you know, 9/10 ridiculous. And there is only a tiny portion of you that is worth respecting and loving. It's okay. But you have to come to a place where you accept, you know. You know, anyone who wants to make any serious changes to their life, anyone, you need to make sure your physical life is going to support it. You know, because change is abstract. It's a concept that's out there. If you wanted to have flesh and bones, make sure your physical life supports it. You know, if you say, well, you know, you want to be a writer, well, you know, if your rent is $2,000 and you work for Home Depot, well, you're not going to come home with a lot of energy, you know. Okay, so good for you. Once in a while you gather with your friends and you talk about what a gifted writer you are. And they ask you, well, when was the last time you wrote something? It was about 25 years ago. Okay, well, at least you can talk about it. That's fine. You know, but if you're serious, then, you know, you kind of get some money from somewhere, put yourself to school, you know, hopefully become a teacher of sorts, or find a life where you just sit and write all the time. If there is no pain, there is no awareness. You know, and you need to have the right kind of pain, a pain that reminds you, not a pain that paralyzes you. You know, pain is always sad, it's always depressing, you know. If you have toothache, you're inspired to go see a dentist. If you have a toothache, you got no money, and you got no family, and you got nothing, you know, you'll probably just get sicker and die. You know, the other thing about awareness is that unfortunately it causes reflection. Reflection is an, you know, inward engagement exercise. It's not like thinking where you're trying to solve a problem that's out there. Reflection is trying to solve a problem that lives inside you. it always goes against life. Always. It's like, you're married, and then you read a funny book about love, and then you want to know, in what ways you love your companion. What the hell do you care? You're with him, he likes you like him, you guys have a good life. And this particular kind of reflection kind of says, first, Alison, you don't know how to love. Examine this love. And then it ruins your life. And you have to be, I think, very, 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 very mature to know what to reflect on, how intense and to what depth you should take that reflection, when to stop, when you should keep it to yourself, when you should share it with your companion or share it outwardly with anyone, And I think these are just kind of things you have to mature into, grow into. It's kind of like the dean who resigned. He comes from a different state. He doesn't know what Rockland is. He doesn't know how people are. He doesn't know, Johnny too well. He doesn't know Vermin too well. He doesn't know Sierra too well. He brings his arrogance to Sierra and tries to push people around, and he gets himself in trouble. I think, it's reflection is a very, very, very dangerous thing. And if you're not careful and if you don't have a good support system, it can really turn your life upside down. It's like, all these stupid people who like fall in love at the age of 18 and they fall in love hard. And then at the age of 21, things just go bad for them. And they spend the rest of their life, trying to kind of fix what happened to them at the age of 18. It's just not necessary to have those experiences. There is nothing wrong with just you falling into this place of conformity, just where you do what people have done for all these years. Nothing wrong with that. There are also certain temperaments that are much better equipped to live with awareness. They just know how to deal with it. It's kind of like some people are okay with being alone. Some people hate being alone. They just can't do it. Some people are okay with being quiet. Some people have a difficult time being quiet. And I think awareness and reflection, they are in the same category. Introverts do really, really well with reflection, because introverts have a tendency of just having internal conflicts from the moment they're born. When you kind of add reflection to it, it kind of just adds more seasoning to who and what they are. Someone who is an extrovert or likes his life or her life to be very, very organized, they have this thing called instrumental rationality, which is how can I better organize my life? Reflection creates chaos. Thinking creates organization. If you're like Rumi, where you have a lot of power, where you can turn your chaos into creative art. you know. If you happen to be someone like Nietzsche, you'll kind of just go crazy a little bit. True, he also suffered from other things, but good luck with all of that. So, you know, when you read Daughter of Fire, many places in the book, she just hates what Bai Sahib has done to her. She hates it. You know, what does he want from me? I can't do this anymore. Why can't he just tell me to leave? You know, I don't know if Helen is right or not, where she says Rashad Field, the author of The Last Bear, he was a drunk. You know. Because reflection can take you to places that are sometimes horrifying. It's just too much to carry sometimes. You know, and your only outlet, if you don't have a privileged position in life, is you get drunk. Consider your buddy Andrea. You know, this is a man who has read a lot of books, knows a few things about a few things. He has, you know, some awareness to him. But he doesn't have a physical life where the awareness can become applicable. He may be rich intellectually, but his physical life is very, very, very impoverished. I'm not talking about money or those things. I'm talking about the inability of finding a physical environment where this awareness can come in and then, you know, have flowers and fruits where you can see and taste and touch. They fall nowhere. It's like drops of water in this desert. They just vanish. And so after a while you just get depressed because you have all this information in your head. You have no idea what to do with them. After a while they even begin to lose value and meaning and you're just stuck. You can't pursue them anymore. You can apply them, but they burden you heavily. And the only thing that you can do as, I suppose, a remedy is you exercise, you eat, and you have sex. These are your 3 ways out. You know, or you exhaust your body to the point where you're just going to get sick. You know, the nice thing about the American culture is that it turns everything into a market. You know, so if awareness would be something explosive, say in India, in America it's something that, you know, you have a lot of customers for. Because nobody really takes it seriously, nobody looks at it the right way or seriously, and so people can kind of play with it for 10 minutes and then go about their business.